Am I the asshole for telling my sister to stop bringing up her dead baby? So my 36F sister, 33F, Julie, had a baby die of SIDS 6 years ago. I tried to support her in all the ways I could. She's now in a support group with other moms who have lost babies and is getting better and thinking about possibly having or adopting another kid. My other sister, 26F, Ashley, just had her first baby 3 months ago. All throughout her pregnancy and now while her baby is alive, Julie keeps bringing up that the baby could die of SIDS. Like she'll say things like, "Don't get too attached, you never know. I had my first kid before everything that happened to Julie and I still had a fear of SIDS or that something may go wrong in general." But Ashley is really getting freaked out. My family is potting together, so Julie and I were at Ashley's house yesterday trying to help out with the baby. Julie kept freaking her out and mentioning SIDS to the point where Ashley started crying and saying, "I really just want her to be okay," in reference to her baby. I took her in the other room and tried to calm her down by saying the baby wasn't going to die, but Julie kept yelling in from the other room, "You never know." I was really annoyed, and when we went upstairs I asked her if maybe she could discuss this with a therapist or her support or even her husband. She just kept saying, "I don't want to give Ashley false hope," and things like that. I asked if she could please stop bringing up the idea of her baby dying in front on Ashley. She got very annoyed and left suddenly. She hasn't said anything to me or anyone else since yesterday. I understand that this is probably triggering for her, but it's not Ashley's job to deal with that, especially when she has a newborn, and I don't know how to help her, so I feel like suggesting she talk to people who do know how to help her isn't that bad, but I do kinda feel like an asshole for telling her to stop bringing it up. Am I the asshole here? Not the asshole. Of course the baby could get SIDS. The baby could also get the flu and die. Or she could be in a car accident. That doesn't mean you talk about it all the time. My guess is your older sister is struggling with jealousy. It's not fair this new baby is here and giving her mother joy. And she's trying to hide her jealousy by warning your younger sister. But really she's just projecting her anger. She needs to stop. It's not fair to anyone. It is so awful your sister lost her baby. It's not fair and I cannot imagine her pain. But that doesn't make it okay to constantly bring everyone else down. Not the asshole. I kinda think you've put yourself down with the title. You haven't really just told your sister to stop talking about her dead child. You asked her stop talking about SIDS for your other sister's sake. Having a child should be a good time and shouldn't be riddled by someone who keeps reminding you of all the ways your kid could die. So much not the asshole. Julie should not be around Ashley right now. Giving advice to help prevent SIDS is one thing, but what she's doing right now is basically trying to harass Ashley into believing that her daughter is inevitably going to die, while Ashley is already dealing with PP hormones. This is abuse. It needs to stop now. No matter what anyone says to you about this, get Julie out of that house. You, have the patience of a saint, or a giant rock IDK. I would have blown up in her face like the volcano with the nice name in Iceland. Your sister needs professional grief counseling. And to stop terrorizing the family. Protect your younger sister and her kid by keeping the other sister away until she gets up. Not the asshole. That whole dead baby routine is really awful. Ashley doesn't need to hear this on a continuous loop. Julie sounds as if she needs some counseling to get past it all. She may already be. Telling a new mother she shouldn't get too attached, because the baby could die, is just horrific. I would probably have given Julie the same message but in less polite terms. She has become a raging the asshole on this issue, and I would suggest that Ashley keep away from her as much as possible while the baby is young. Hearing that over and over would drive a person batty. Not the asshole. She's clearly still grieving, but putting this idea in Ashley's head that she shouldn't get too attached because the baby could die is disturbing. Not the asshole. Had a friend lose a baby to SIDS. We had her the night before and it was devastating to realize the baby was there one day and she wasn't the next. It wasn't even our child, yet we felt so guilty, like we did something to cause it. Julie clearly needs to work through her junk, but I would not let her around any newborns anytime soon. She is obviously not ready. NTA, I'd honestly respond with, "Welp, I better not get attached to you either. You could get in a car crash tomorrow or get COVID or a terminal disease. Seriously, it's ridiculous how she's treating Ashley. Like, I get your baby died and that's really difficult to go through, but don't push it onto other people. I was prepared to call you an ah, based on the title. But you are not the asshole. Julie needs help, and Ashley needs yo be able to enjoy her daughter. You did nothing wrong, only what needed to be done. Not the asshole at all. Julie clearly doesn't have support she really needs in her grieving. She's acting out at Ashley because her grief and loss includes a whole lot of anger. She knows she has no real right to be angry at Ashley for having a baby, and at the same time, it puts her own loss right back in her face. Ashley knows very well about SIDS and she doesn't need it constantly thrown in her face. The odds are in Ashley's favor, and Julie needs to get some professional help to figure out how to be okay being around babies again. It's nice that she's thinking of another or adopting, but I can only imagine at this stage how overprotective and overbearing she will be and what that would do to the child. Julie sounds like she's really not okay here. Not the asshole, you stepped in to protect your younger sister that is scared and overwhelmed. Not the asshole. It's good to be careful, but Julie is going way overboard. She is stressing Ashley out, which could lead to different issues for her, so I think you were right to tell her to stop. Is it possible that Julie is having some kind of breakdown related to her sister having a baby now? Not the asshole. I was ready to call you the asshole when I read the title. Working with young children, I know the fear of SIDS. My heart goes out to your sister, but I believe she really needs to start speaking more to her supporter group, husband and therapist. I would understand if she was giving your other sister tips on how to prevent SIDS, but telling you other sister not to get attached and that you never know what could happen was beyond wrong. There is a difference between trying to help and hurting someone else in the process. I don't believe what you said was to be cruel, but to make your sister realize she is hurting your other sister in the process. No assholes here, because I don't think Julie is deliberately being in a hole or jealous. I think she hasn't coped with her grief and is trying too hard to not fix blame. SIDS is awful, but there's also a huge component of guilt, shame, and the, did I do something wrong as a parent? It can be way easier to cling to the notion of, it can happen to anyone, anytime, as a way to stop blaming yourself. However, constantly reminding a loved one that their baby could die at any time is not helpful or healthy at all, and Julie definitely needs to seek help. Not the asshole. I have lost 2 kids, and never goes away, but the only thing I do, is recommending helpful devices and tips to help prevent SIDS. Like monitors from Owlet. They worked great. To tell a mother not to get attached to the baby is just pure evil. Not the asshole. You're trying to protect your sister. Being a new mom is hard enough, she didn't need this. Your sister Julie needs more than support groups. Poor Julie has suffered an absolutely heartbreaking loss that no one should have to suffer, but you're not the asshole. She shouldn't be distressing Ashley by saying things like, "Don't get too attached." SIDS is terrifying, and as the parent of a 4-month-old, I worry about it every day. Thankfully, it is actually pretty rare. About 230 babies die in the UK of SIDS per year. Source. Maybe it would help Ashley to read about the things she can do to help prevent it. Putting baby to sleep on their back, feed at the foot of the cot, etc. I do hope Julie manages to get the help she needs. She has suffered an appalling loss and my heart does go out to her, despite it all. Edit bad link. Not the asshole. No assholes here, because your sister is unwell. Your sister is traumatized. She really needs therapy. And from the way you describe how she keeps saying, "You never know," this could be an OCD tic. She might feel she has to say this to stop the baby from dying. As in, it's a verbal ritual. Not the asshole. You weren't harsh at all with what you said. Your sister definitely needs more help and support during this time, and it would be best if some of that came from a professional. If Ashley could reassure your sister that she is aware of SIDS and appreciates her warnings, but would prefer if it wasn't spoke about often as it is stressful, your sister may understand and calm it a little. Not the asshole. I understand it was painful for her, but she's now scaring her sister, which is purely becoming cruel. Thank you for standing up for your sister. The constant stress of worrying about the baby dying won't help her postpartum and won't help with postpartum depression should she have or develop it. Not the asshole. You did the right thing calmly telling her that she was upsetting Ashley. I understand your other sister's concerns, but if it's all she talks about, and it's starting to affect her relationships, then you're right. She needs professional help. It's not for a lack of trying on your family's part. She's simply not listening to you guys at this point, and it's bringing a dark cloud over everyone. Dark energy can actually be detrimental to her health, to the baby's health, and to the overall family relationship's health. Not the asshole. Has she had any counseling or therapy other than the support group? I understand that must have been incredibly hard to go through as a mother, but she shouldn't cause others to suffer because she is. Good on you for trying to support her, and for standing up for your other sister in a calm manner. Not the asshole. Ashley needs to go low contact with Julie. Julie will cause a real long-lasting negative impact on Ashley's relationship with her child if this doesn't stop. Not the asshole at all. Julie suffered a heartbreaking loss, but right now she's not good for Ashley and needs to stay away from her and the baby. You were looking out for Ashley and right to encourage her to talk to her therapist and husband. Not the asshole. This isn't about your sister grieving, it's projecting her loss onto Ashley, and that's not fair nor is it healthy. Not the asshole. My mum told me a scarily similar story to this a couple of months ago as I recently had a baby and we got to talking about SIDS. She said years ago in my town a lady went through the same thing as Julie and she acted the same after towards her cousin's newborn. Long story short, the lady had a full mental break and ended up suffocating her cousin's child with a pillow and tried to pass it off as a SIDS death. The reason I'm telling you this is because Julie really needs to get help from a therapist ASAP. Not the asshole. I'm sorry for your family's loss. Seems to me that your sister is still dealing with a lot of unresolved issues and is lashing out, in her own warped way, out of that. I hope she can find and get the help she so clearly needs. Meanwhile, I'd try and keep her away from Ashley and her baby. Not the asshole. Julie really needs more than just a support group. She needs legitimate therapy. If she doesn't get help, she will completely destroy any relationship she has with Ashley, and you and Ashley herself might end up in therapy due to the anxiety Julie is creating for her. Julie is obviously still grieving. What parent wouldn't? And when you hurt so bad on the inside, sometimes you want others to feel as bad as you do. Misery loves company kinda thing. There are healthy ways to grieve and unhealthy ways, and this just doesn't seem healthy. Not the asshole. I was leaning toward NaH because of Julie's understandably poor mental health at this point, but I lost it at her yelling into the other room at a crying Ashley that her lovely baby might die. I hope she doesn't manage to ruin the first year of motherhood in general for Ashley. How awful. Did Julie's baby actually die of SIDS, or did the baby die due to unsafe sleep conditions, which is actually more common? True cause of death as SIDS is actually really uncommon these days. More often than not, cause of death for infants under the age of 1 is found to be unsafe sleep conditions. Talk with Ashley about safe sleep practices for newborns and infants under the age of 1, and if you don't know what that means, research it or talk to a pediatrician and reaffirm that SIDS is super uncommon in infants who are put to sleep while following safe sleep practices for every single sleep, whether it's nighttime or nap time. Says the former CPS investigation fatality specialist. ETA. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, though your title is way misleading. I was already thinking something else. But yeah, Julie shouldn't be around Ashley right now. It's nerve-wreaking enough being a first-time parent, and like Ashley knows firsthand what can happen having seen Julie go through it. She doesn't need the added stress of Julie telling her constantly her baby could die. No one needs that. But Julie def needs more therapy right now, I reckon. You need to get her away from your younger sister and more sessions until she can control herself a bit more. I feel for her. I wouldn't know how I would handle losing one of my kids like that, but she needs to back up. And as much as it can hurt those we love, though, love is sometimes needed. Sounds like poor Julie still needs more work done in therapy. Not the asshole. I think how Julia feels is quite understandable, since losing a child is one of the most heart-crushing things a person can experience, but she's not helping Ashley at all with all these morbid warnings. It's simply not a constructive way for Julia to express her grief or pain. If she finds that she can't help it and/or the feelings are overwhelming when she's around Ashley's baby, then distancing herself until the baby is a little older would be a much better option for everyone. Not the asshole. Telling your sister not to get attached to her own baby because of SIDS is not helpful, it's psychotic. Wow. I'm sorry to hear about your sister's baby, that must have been and most likely is still a traumatic experience. With that said, she needs to stop bringing it up to your other sister who just had her baby. Totally unnecessary to create that fear. She is taking her sister's baby and making it about her. Not cool. Don't get too attached, you never know. Jesus FC King Christ. I'm a complete and utter asshole. According to most people, anyway. And even I know that is not the kind of thing to say to a new mother. Not the asshole for sure. Not the asshole. Julie's clearly jealous of Ashley. Not the asshole. Good lord, she is toxic. Why haven't the rest of you shut her down already? Losing a child is horrible, but that does not entitle her to terrorize other new moms. Not the asshole. Your sister is being incredibly destructive and needs limits set for her. However, false certainty is often not helpful to people experiencing anxiety. Your wife can't know for sure that her baby will be okay, in a myriad of ways, and it's good to acknowledge that. We are willing to accept the small chance of heartbreak because it will be worth it, is much more reassuring. Not the asshole at all. Julie needs help. True SIDS is very very rare. I feel so bad for Ashley. Shame on Julie to just imply Ashley's baby will die because hers did. Absolutely NTA. My baby died of SIDS 1 month old. Devastating needless to say. But I never did, never will say such things to expectant mothers. That is incredibly rude. Not the asshole. Your sister needs in-depth therapy, she is causing psychological trauma to your younger sister and that could wreck her mental health if it hasn't already. And whilst it's extremely unlikely, I would be very wary about letting your older sister around the baby at all until she's managing things well, as there are the odd horror stories out there of a psychological break resulting in kidnapping the baby and trying to believe it's their own, or even worse, trying to recreate what happened to her own child. It's extremely unlikely but not impossible. Not the asshole. Sounds like your sister hasn't gotten over the death of her baby. Did she undergo therapy? She is being tortuous by constantly bringing it up. Not the asshole. Julie is being super insensitive and just needs to stop, plain and simple. Is she going to go around for your niece's entire life whispering in your sister's ear, she could die today? You never know. A car could hit her. She could get cancer. You never know. Like, what the fuck is this? Professional help could be of use in this case for your sister Julie. Not the asshole. This is clearly too triggering for your sister and she needs to remove herself from the situation and get her own support. She is correct. The baby could die from SIDS or a million other things. She seems to think she's doing a favor by making sure Ashley is aware, but can she honestly say that if someone told her when her baby was born that they would die in 6 months that it would have been easier for her? That she would feel less grief if only she had known? Of course not. Baby mama has enough anxiety that comes w the territory of being a new mom. 'Cause that shit is scary. Angel baby mama needs to shut her mouth. She can talk, think about her late child, but she needs to stop spreading misery with reckless disregard. WHO tells a new mother not to bond her child, just in case. Consider a calm conversation Angel baby mama. She seriously needs help and should not have charge of another child until she does, given that, don't get that attached just in case, attitude. I'm very sorry for her, but she doesn't get to do that. Ever. To anyone. I think your older sister needs a new therapist and that she should stop projecting her jealousy, anger, and trauma towards others. I have PTSD, but I don't project it on others. You did the right thing and I think you and Ashley should cut ties with her until calm down. I'd cut ties with Julie until she gets some intense one-on-one therapy from a professional, in a professional office, not a group. Not the asshole. She's emotionally terrorizing a new mom. She needs to find a healthy way to deal with her trauma. 6 years is absolutely not long enough to just get over the loss of a child. That's a lifetime of pain and trauma. But what your sister is doing is fucked up. She's not cautioning, helping or being considerate. She's straight up traumatizing, torturing your other sister. Not the asshole, but your sister sure is. She really, really needs to seek a professional.